Imagine a country that gave the world democracy, philosophy, and the foundations of Western civilization, brought to its knees not by foreign invaders, but by its own mounting debt. In 2009, Greece, a modern European nation, revealed that its financial situation was far worse than anyone had imagined. A budget deficit that was more than double what had been officially reported. This revelation shook the global financial system and sparked a crisis that would become one of the most dramatic economic collapses in recent history. For years, Greece had borrowed heavily, spending beyond its means while joining the Eurozone to benefit from low-interest loans, all the while masking the reality of its finances. When the 2008 global financial crisis hit, the cracks widened into chasms, and suddenly, the world witnessed a country teetering on the edge of default. But this was more than just numbers on a ledger. It was a story of governments, international institutions, and ordinary citizens caught in the whirlwind of austerity, protests, and uncertainty. Today, we'll explore how a nation so historically rich in culture and ideas could fall victim to modern financial pressures, how its experience mirrors the collapse of empires past, and what lessons the world can learn from Greece's dramatic journey through debt, bailout, and recovery. 1. Prelude. Greece's shaky financial foundations and entry into the Eurozone. Greece's financial instability did not appear overnight. It had been brewing for decades. After joining the European Union in 1981, Greece aspired to modernize its economy and raise its global standing. In 2001, Greece entered the Eurozone, adopting the euro as its currency. While this gave Greece access to low-interest loans and economic credibility, it also exposed structural weaknesses. To meet the Eurozone's fiscal requirements, successive governments underreported budget deficits and national debt, creating an illusion of financial health. Meanwhile, public spending skyrocketed, funding generous pensions, bloated public sector salaries, and expansive social programs. Tax collection lagged, and evasion was widespread, weakening the government's revenue base. Private sector productivity remained low, leaving the economy dependent on borrowed funds. The combination of unchecked borrowing, fiscal misrepresentation, and structural inefficiencies meant that Greece's economic house was built on shaky foundations. On paper, the country seemed stable, but the reality was far more precarious. This hidden vulnerability would later be exposed, showing that Greece had effectively accumulated debt faster than it could sustainably repay, much like historical empires that overextended themselves financially. The spark, global financial crisis, and reveal of true deficit. The 2007-2008 global financial crisis acted as a catalyst, exposing Greece's fragile financial system. International credit markets froze, and borrowing costs surged, making it increasingly difficult for Greece to refinance existing debt. In October 2009, George Papandreou, U.S. newly elected government, revealed a shocking truth. Greece's budget deficit for 2009 would reach 12% of GDP, more than double the previously reported figure. The disclosure rattled investors, European authorities, and credit rating agencies. Within days, Greece's sovereign debt was downgraded to junk status, triggering a dramatic spike in borrowing costs. Banks tightened lending, and confidence in the Greek economy evaporated. This revelation also ignited domestic anxiety and political tension, as citizens realized the severity of the crisis. Unemployment began to rise. Economic contraction loomed, and the social fabric started to fray. The combination of global economic pressure and hidden fiscal weakness transformed a slow-building problem into an immediate crisis. Greece's financial mismanagement, previously masked by manipulated reporting, could no longer be ignored. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation between national sovereignty and international financial forces. 3. Debt, bailouts, and austerity. A hard road to default. In 2010, Greece faced the imminent threat of default and received its first bailout, €100 billion from the European Union and the IMF. While the funds provided temporary relief, they came with strict conditions. The Greek government was required to implement austerity measures, including deep cuts to public spending, pension reductions, and tax increases. The social impact was immediate and severe. Unemployment soared, wages fell, and widespread protests engulfed the nation. Strikes became common as citizens expressed frustration with austerity policies that seemed to punish ordinary people while failing to fully resolve the debt crisis. Over the next several years, Greece needed additional bailout packages, each demanding even stricter reforms. Despite these measures, public debt continued to rise, and economic contraction persisted. The country's sovereignty appeared constrained as international lenders wielded significant influence over domestic policy. Greece's experience highlighted a brutal truth about modern finance. Even temporary relief can come at the cost of social and political stability, and heavily indebted nations may be forced to endure prolonged austerity to satisfy creditors. 4. The default and what falling like an empire means by mid-2015. Greece's financial situation reached a critical juncture. On June 30th, Greece missed an IMF repayment deadline, marking its first major default in decades. The default sent shockwaves across global markets and reignited concerns about Eurozone stability. Observers drew parallels between Greece's situation and historical empires that collapsed under the weight of financial mismanagement. Like those empires, Greece had accumulated unsustainable obligations and faced external pressures that constrained its policy options. Citizens experienced the tangible consequences of debt mismanagement, austerity, unemployment, and social unrest. Yet, unlike ancient civilizations, Greece retained democratic institutions and access to international support, offering a path toward eventual recovery. The episode emphasized that economic collapse can occur even in modern, developed nations, and that fiscal overreach remains a potent threat. Greece's experience served as a cautionary tale. History may repeat itself in financial form, even when modern institutions are in place. 5. Long-term impact and recovery so far following years of economic turmoil. Greece has begun a slow process of recovery. The country exited its final bailout in 2018, but the effects of the crisis remain visible. Unemployment remained high for years. Public debt levels were historically elevated, and trust in government institutions had eroded. However, reforms have been implemented to improve tax collection, restructure public administration, and stimulate economic activity. Greece's experience provides valuable lessons for other nations about the dangers of excessive borrowing, opaque governance, and reliance on external creditors. While the country endured years of hardship, its journey also demonstrates resilience and adaptation in the face of economic adversity. Like historical empires that collapsed due to fiscal overextension, Greece's story underscores the importance of transparency, accountability, and sustainable financial practices. Modern nations can study this episode as a reminder that even culturally and historically significant countries are vulnerable to the forces of debt and economic mismanagement. The Greek crisis remains both a warning and a lesson. Financial empires can rise and fall, but careful governance and prudent economic policies are key to stability and long-term survival. The story of Greece is a stark reminder that even nations with deep historical roots and global significance are not immune to financial collapse. Years of excessive borrowing, opaque fiscal practices, and structural economic weaknesses combined with global financial shocks to push the country to the brink of default. While the bailouts and austerity measures helped stabilize the economy, they came at a tremendous social cost, affecting millions of ordinary citizens and reshaping the nation's political and economic landscape. Yet, through resilience, reform, and gradual recovery, Greece is slowly rebuilding and learning from its past mistakes. Its journey serves as both a cautionary tale and a source of lessons for other nations. Transparency, responsible fiscal management, and sustainable economic policies are essential to avoid repeating history. If you found this video insightful, make sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay updated with more stories that explore the rise and fall of nations, empires, and economies.